Rachel's almost connected. Should we have people turn their videos on? Like Daniel, Catherine, Rachel, Kimberly?
Yeah, definitely can if you want. Share your video.
Is everyone shy?
It's okay if they don't. They might be practicing judo on their own.
All right. Okay. So should we, looks like everyone's connected at least. Okay. Well, welcome everyone to the Team USA Training and Tactics session with Paralympian Robert Tanaka, part of the 2021 Angel City Summers series presented by the Hartford. It's an honor to have Robert with us tonight as he's headed to Tokyo in a couple weeks. It is very busy training, so we're going to show him some love tonight. Please remain on mute for the duration of the session so everyone can hear Robert. If you have any questions or comments, please write them in the chat. We recommend when the session begins to go to the top right-hand corner of your Zoom screen and make sure you're on active speaker view so that you can see Robert on the bigger screen. Another quick Zoom note for our adaptive athletes is please make sure your Zoom name is accurate, so we can give you 10 points for attending today's session. Remember, every virtual event you attend throughout the summer series will give you 10 points. Each 100 points unlocks Angel City swag and other cool prizes. And you can get even more points by sharing on social media and encouraging your friends or family to join you. We are fortunate to have medical volunteers supervising this session. If you are feeling sick or have an injury, please let them know right away. Finally, I'd like to take this moment to thank all of our incredible sponsors who made this event possible. First, of course, a huge thank you to the Hartford, the presenting sponsor of the 2021 Angel City Summer Series, and Ottobock, along with our sports sponsors, the Hanger Clinic, Fox Sports, and Gold Meets Golden. And of course, thanks to all of you for being here tonight. Now I'd like to introduce Robert. Robert was introduced to judo at the age of 5 and immediately fell in love. Next month, of course, he's headed to Tokyo for his first Paralympic Games. We're so grateful he took the time out of his busy schedule to join us tonight. Take it away, Robert.
Hi, everybody. My name is Robert Tanaka. My sport is judo. Do I just give a brief introduction about judo? Yes? Sorry.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. So my sport is judo. Most of you probably are not really aware of what judo is, but that's okay. I hope to teach you a little bit about that. So unlike karate or taekwondo, judo does not involve any striking movements. It's similar to wrestling and jiu-jitsu, where you try to use your opponent's momentum to gain leverage over them. Judo is probably most known for the big throws that you see, but you can also win in judo with pins like in wrestling, and chokes and arm bars like in jiu-jitsu. One interesting fact, though, that I like to say is that wrestlers get to pin their opponent for only 3 seconds. In judo, you have to hold them for 20. So it's a little bit harder. A little bit about myself. I was born with albinism, which affects my skin and eye color. So I'm actually full Japanese American, but I have very pale skin and blonde hair, which is, uncommon characteristics. And it also affects my vision. So I can only see about 5 feet with my glasses. And past that, it's just, colors and shapes. But judo presented itself as a great opportunity for myself and other people with visual impairments, because in judo, you rely a lot more on feeling rather than sight. And when we show you some clips, you'll see what I mean. So judo actually there's a para judo for visually impaired and able-bodied judo. And really the main difference is in able-bodied judo at the Olympics, you just start about 5-6 feet apart, Whereas in para judo, you start with a grip on and you always have to have one foot on. But besides that, pretty much the same. And then for today, I believe for our workout, we're going to do a quick warm up. And then I'm going to show you a throw and I'm going to walk you through the steps of that throw. I know it's a little hard for you to kind of get a grasp on it, especially if we're online. I would have loved to be in person and you guys could pair up and actually try it, but we're going to have to work with what we have. So we're going to walk through the steps and then we can go from there. So are we good to proceed to the workout or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're good.
Okay, awesome.
Let me know whenever you want the videos, Robert.
Awesome. Okay. So to start off, we're just gonna kind of loosen up a little bit, okay? So I want everybody to kind of jump up and down. You're gonna use your ankles to jump, okay? You're just getting nice and loose, okay? All right, we're gonna do 10 jumping jacks just to get our heart rate up, okay? Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so in judo, you need quick feet, right? Kind of like soccer, you have to be able to shift your balance. Okay, quick feet, agile feet. All right, so now we're gonna do 10 squats, 10 push-ups, and 10 sit-ups, okay? You can go at your own pace. Don't feel pressured to keep up, but we're gonna go. I'll count, and you do what you can, okay? Starting with squats, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Awesome. Okay, 10 push-ups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, last 10 sit-ups. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. How does everybody feel? Give me some feedback. You good? It's hot in Colorado, so I'm sweating already.
Yeah, I'm sweating.
Awesome. Okay, would you mind showing the slow motion throw?
Yes. Let me bring it up. Okay. Can everybody see? All right. So I will play this video. Very cool.
Okay. So that throw is called Morote Seonagi. It means a double shoulder forward throw. Okay, so we're gonna walk through the steps of how to do that. I'm assuming nobody has a partner, but just for showing you guys what I'm doing, I'm gonna use my brother, okay? Just to show kind of what I'm doing. I'm not gonna actually throw him, but just for the sake of our demonstration. Okay, so
You have medical, but please don't use us.
okay, so one of the most important abilities in judo is to make your opponent off balance, right? You have to create momentum in a direction, and from there you're able to throw them. So one of the easiest ways to do that in judo is to pull. Okay, all I'm doing is I'm bringing this arm up And it's almost like I'm reading my watch. When someone asks you, what time is it? You bring your watch up to your face, right? So I'm just bringing my hand up. And what that's doing to him is it's making him lean forward, right? I'm creating his momentum forward. Okay. For my feet, can everybody see? I can't see my screen, so you got to give me feedback
Yes.
if you can't see. Okay. So if my partner is square here, his center of balance is going to be in the middle. Okay, he's not leaning on one foot or the other. So that means he's perfectly centered. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to step at a 90 degree. This is my first step. Okay, and we'll put the hands together after this, but for right now, we're just going to do the steps. I'm going to step at a 90 degrees. And then when my second step comes, I turn 180 degrees. Okay, so again, with our fighting stance, okay, I'm assuming people have seen fights, right? Boxing or such. If you're a righty, you want your right foot in front. Okay. You're going to take your right foot and you're going to turn it 90 degrees. That's your first step. And then my second step, I'm turning another 180. So I made half circle turn from my original starting position. 1, 2. Okay. Now, if everybody remembers the pulling hand, as I take my first step, I'm going to pull and look at my watch. I'm reading my watch. And as I bring my second hand, this stays in front of my face. I'm going to keep reading my watch. Okay. Notice as my second foot comes back, I kind of get lower, right? So I'm here facing my opponent. I come 1 and 2.
Quick question, Robert.
Yep.
How do you know where does is it a referee? Is that what they're called?
Mm-hmm.
Where do they place the hands before you start, right? Because if you're
Sure.
athlete who's blind, you have first contact. So where are you holding your opponent?
Sure. So I grab right behind his elbow. Typically, you won't see people going higher than this because you compensate a lot of movement ability, right? It's so high you can't move. But it's common for people to grab lower because as I come lower, I have less control of the shoulder, but I create more movement, right? But I like to kind of meet in the middle, right? It's a good mix between having control of the shoulder and also a little movement. So this is my left side. So if I'm righty, remember my right foot's in front and my left hand will be on his sleeve. My right hand is going to go on his lapel. And my first knuckle is kind of by his collarbone, right? A lot of times if you're bigger, you'll see him come on top, right? More of a wrestling control. But for the neutral grip, you're going to start here. And actually in VI Judo, you'll start square like this, pretty close together. And when they say hajime, which is start, then you go, right? So again, with my grip, I'm only using this hand. Okay, forget this hand for now. Okay, I'm pulling up as I step. So as I step, my first step, let's see, how am I going to show this? Oh. So as I step, I'm pulling up 1 and 2, and I bend my knees. And if you notice, I end like this. It's kind of like a squatting position, right? So we did squats earlier, right?
Perfect. Yeah.
This is the same position I want, is my squats, like when I'm squatting. Okay.
Got it.
Let's see. And then when you finish your throw, it's kind of like you're chopping wood. So I don't know if a lot of people have chopped wood since you guys live in LA, right? But when you go out to the countryside to build a fire, you have to chop wood. So what I'm gonna do is from my squatting position, my hands in front, like I'm reading my watch. And as I explode up, I'm turning my upper body. This is using our abs. That's why we did a little sit-ups. Get your abs working. Okay, so all I'm doing is I'm bringing my right shoulder to my left knee as I come up. Okay.
Very nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're ready, I could show the video again. Now people can put all the parts together.
Sure. That'd be great.
All right, so we'll watch the video again, the slow motion video.
So I'm starting with my fighting position, and I kind of come under for a squat. And as I come up, my right shoulder comes to my left knee, and that's what creates the torque that's needed to throw your opponent.
Yeah, I'm noticing how low you go, Robert. Your knees almost touch the mat.
Yeah. So you don't have to go that low. It's a little more advanced, but when you get more competitive with it, it's a lot easier to block if you come high, right? But if you shoot real low, it creates almost this teeter-totter effect. So remember we said his center of balance is in the middle when his feet are even. It's the same thing, you know, horizontally. So what I'm doing is creating a focal point underneath him here. And he's like a teeter-totter. As I pull him forward and I come up, I'm able to lift his weight a lot easier than if I just try to come here and pick him up, right?
Totally.
So the concepts of judo is it's very physics-based. Okay, so I'm creating my opponent momentum going forward, and this already makes him lighter. And then on top of that, I'm coming underneath him. Now he's super light.
Got it. So you're using the parts of your body that are stronger, not trying to just use all arms.
Exactly.
And it seems like one of the things you have to practice in judo is being fluid. And what I mean by that is like moving at the same time, like in a nice sequence, but you're pulling as the same time you're stepping to get in position. Because if you just do one and then try and do the other, it's not going to work out.
Right. So everything is synchronized. So it's a very kind of efficient in a way, right? Because both I'm pulling him and getting myself in position at the same time, right? It's not I'm creating him off balance and then I turn because by then it's too late. My opponent would have regained his balance. So as I'm pulling him off balance, I need to set myself in a position where I can throw him, right? So that's just the basic steps. And there's actually a lot of throws that revolve around just those steps. The one I showed you is probably one of the most used in competition. But for instance, in self-defense, right? My opponent comes up and grabs my head. Most people try to scoot away. Instead, you could do the exact same thing. You step 1, 2, right? And you could grab his shirt or whatever. But it's the same steps. I'm basically aligning my body with my partner's body, and I'm coming under for a squat, and I'm getting under his hips. So more or less, you know,
Yeah.
these steps are all used.
It's really cool when you put it that way. It's using your body and their body and finding the fulcrum of, you know, where their balance is, using your hips
Right.
a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, most people just think about wrestling as I'm just pulling with my arms and trying to hold somebody down, but
Yeah. And, you know, there are a lot of modern techniques in judo that are kind of like wrestling, you know, they come from head control and such in competition, but traditionally, most techniques in judo are very fluid. And you kind of want to, the way they describe it is when you catch your opponent, they should be weightless. It should feel like a feather, right? So you shouldn't feel any of your opponent's weight because his momentum is carrying him for you. All you're doing is redirecting his weight.
Got it. I have a question, Robert. So
Sure.
after a successful throw, do you score points? Do you win the match? How does that work?
Yeah, so if you throw them flat on their back with control, it's called an ippon, which means the match is over. You won, right? If you throw them on their side or they roll over their back, right? It's not a direct impact. It's called a wazari. That's half a point. You need 2 of those to win. And if they land on their stomach, and there's no score. And there should be a video. One of the videos shows a little groundwork. But basically, once you hit the ground, as long as it's not an ippon and both players are on the ground, you can go for a submission on arm lock or a choke or a pin. And yeah.
Okay. Do you know which video I have? This is the one from Senior Nationals.
I think it was Portugal or something like that.
Okay, we'll
That's
try.
all right if you don't have it. This was from Senior Nationals 2019. I'm going to show the steps to this throw as well. This is one of my personal favorites. It's a little more complicated, but it's not too bad. So if you notice, it's all about creating a good angle for an attack or waiting for a counterattack. So my opponent hits my leg and I'm able to enter.
So I'll slow it down for everybody.
So my opponent comes for that front leg and see how he's leaning forward? I'm able to redirect his momentum. And I'm able to pull him and lift him with that one leg off the ground and turn. Flat on his back.
Beautiful.
Okay. So for this one, hands are pretty much similar, okay? This is still pulling, I'm reading my watch, and I turn, right? And then this hand is like gonna be like answering a phone. Okay, so if it's on his chest here, I'm gonna bring it up and answer the phone as I check my watch. So, you know, someone's calling you and say, what time is it? Oh, let me check. This is what we want, right? Okay.
Love it.
This is our one, okay? So the first step is almost identical to what we already recovered, right? Or what we already covered. Here, 1, right? I'm just turning 90 degrees, 1. And the second step, though, is where it becomes a little different. I'm going to make a T with my feet. And from there, I'm going to pick my leg up and lift it up. So my first step is almost the same, right? I step 90, I check the time, answer the phone. And then I'm going to turn and make a T. Notice my hips turn with it, right? My hips are turning with it. I'm here. As I make my T, my hips turn. I'm facing 180 degrees. And then my leg comes up. Okay.
Got it. And you're really pulling with your leg with your hamstring, right? Because you have to lift part of his weight and part of his weight.
Right. Yep. But if you notice, the common theme here is that my opponent is being pulled forward. Right. I'm using his momentum to come forward. And then it's almost identical, right? 1, 2, and 3.
Very
Okay.
nice.
I'll
show the video again so people can know what they're looking for now.
So once you have the throws down and you go into competition, it becomes a chess game to try to open them up, right? So if you notice when we go, there's a lot of movement, and that's just searching for an angle. Because if I come in and he's super strong based, he's going to be able to counter, right? Leaning and
So Robert, does it just take practice to know when you feel that they're starting to open up or when to attack? Like you might be able to change their balance. How do you
Yeah.
get used to that? Because you know the first 20 seconds of that it's like you're feeling both each other out and he's feeling your balance. So
right.
what are some of the tell?
It's a lot of practice. That's the one thing in judo that you really can't teach out of a book is feeling your opponent's momentum. That's something that you really have to actually practice. But as you do it more and more, you'll be able to recognize which way your opponent is leaning. Especially in VI when you start touching, right? In para judo, you start with a grip on. Sometimes you can feel your opponent leaning one way or the other before they even start. So when they say start, you're able to throw them right off of start because you feel them leaning. So it comes with practice. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Well, and that is one of my favorite things about para judo is so for athletes who are blind, since you have your grip, as soon as they say hajime, it's all action immediately. Yep. There's no waiting and seeing what the other person's going to do. Is you're be ready to go.
Yep.
Very cool. Do you want me to show the last video?
Sure. I believe it's a training video. So real quickly, going to the training, another thing that's really important is, repetition, muscle memory, because when you're fighting, like you kind of asked, how do you recognize it? Your body kind of is just so used to your opponent being in that position that you turn. And the way you do that is you do a lot of fit-ins to the throw, right? So if what I taught you today, that's one fit-in, right? Usually we'll do a set of 20 really quick, okay? And that's just to, build muscle memory, get our bodies used to just turning, right? Just turning. So when you're actually fighting and you feel, hey, there's an opening, there's no hesitation, right? Your body's just in. So you can go ahead and show you. I'll show you what one of those drills looks like. It's
okay, have the video.
Right. Good. Quick snap.
a lot of quick moving. Big pull, turn your head, quick hips.
15. 10. Almost. 10. 5. Okay. Don't turn your hip. Leave the leg straight.
That's incredible.
Very hard. You probably heard my instructor. He's a little old school. Likes to yell a lot. But so yeah, we'll do, sets of 20, probably 200-300 at practice. Those are not only good for, just getting your body used to turning, but it's also really good for conditioning. So, judo athletes love to do those. I've been doing a lot of those lately because I injured my shoulder, so I can't really do, live fighting. So I've kind of grown to hate them over the past couple weeks, but those are probably one of the biggest exercises a judoka will practice. Do we have time for, did they want to show or did you want to move on to?
Yeah, hey, you're in control. Whatever you want to show, we got time, Robert.
All right. So I'll just talk to you a little bit about, my training. Some exercises you've seen a little bit, but so right now, I'm I'm doing 2 to 3 a days. And in the morning, we're doing either strength or conditioning, which is a big part of judo. Even though I said, traditional judo is very technical, the modern game has kind of pushed, you need that strength aspect. And then conditioning is important. It's not training for a marathon though. Judo is more focused on quick explosiveness for a short period of time. So normal matches are 4 minutes. If the score is even, there's golden score, which can go on forever. They usually only last like 3 minutes, but I've seen them go up to 20 minutes long. So, endurance is definitely a thing. But when you're training, it's not a marathon, right? It's not training for 5-6 hours worth of fighting. It's only realistically at maximum, you'll have, an hour worth of mat time, maybe 30 minutes of mat time in a tournament. So if that can kind of give you an idea of what kind of, drills we do, it's not really long distance, it's really short. So instead of, 10-mile run, you'll have hill sprints, right? So not long distance, just small, short, explosive, lots of hill sprints, stuff like that. And then usually at night, it's strictly judo. We do a little warm up, and then we do, those uchikomis, those fit-ins that I did, do a lot of those. And then typically we'll go into live fighting. And that's really where you learn where your opponent's balance is in live fighting, right? It takes a long time, but if you just do it over and over and over again, you'll learn to recognize your opponent. And then when you go fight, right, you don't necessarily know your opponent. But it's called randori, is the live fighting. Kind of gives you tools that you use to recognize patterns. Which way is my opponent going to move? And based on that, can I anticipate his next movement? Kind of like that. So that's typically, just kind of what judo sessions is. It's, again, a lot of exercises, quick explosiveness, and yeah.
Very cool. I think Debbie's gonna, yep, go ahead. Deb.
Yeah. So I'm absolutely fascinated with judo now. I might start taking that up. But we do have a couple questions. Robert, do you want to take a couple? All right. So the first one is from, we're going to go with Micah. And so his question is, what happens during a tournament when both opponents fall? Is that just a reset or?
So it kind of depends. Usually the referees will be able to pick out somebody who had control as you're falling. So even though you both might land at the same time, somebody may have initialized the technique and they show a little bit more control. Typically they'll get a score. Otherwise, there's no score. If nobody shows control, the whole thing about getting a score is showing control. So if you don't show control and you both land at the same time, nothing happens. You can just continue into groundwork. Judo's a little unique with groundwork. It's not like jujitsu. They'll actually stand you up if there's little progression. So you typically get like 10-15 seconds to kind of progress. Otherwise, they'll stand you back up. But that's kind of the gist of, what happens if you both fall.
That makes sense. I forgot about the groundwork. You kind of keep going, right?
Yep.
Let's see. Okay, so are there different classifications for judo?
There are.
Okay.
So there's currently 3. They're B1, B2, and B3. So B1 is completely blind. B2 is typically light perception or a very narrow vision, right? Tunnel kind of vision. And then a B3 is myself, and usually it's other albinos. It's just low vision, right? You can't see very far. And the way the scoring system is set up is if you're B1, you get the maximum points, right? You can get 50 points for beating a B3, whereas a B3 beats a B1, you only get 30, or 10, something like that. I don't know. It's very uneven though. So that question of is it fair comes up all the time. I personally believe it is, because if I lose to B1, they get a lot more points than me, which in terms of qualifying is, a huge factor. But starting next year, a lot of B3s will be classed out. So it will just be low B3s, B2s, and B1s starting next year. So.
Huh. Okay. So B1 did you say that was total blind, or is that B?
Yes.
Okay. And so then, because I know in goalball, you'll wear, they wear goggles, right?
Mhm.
So,
Right.
but then it's also varying degrees of visual impairment.
Sure.
But so then for that classification, it's just, there's no vision masks, right?
No, there's not. So
Okay.
that's kind of where the point system, because they're not separated out. B1s don't just fight B1s. Everybody fights
Mhm.
everybody. And that's where that point system kind of comes in.
Okay. I'm with you now, Robert. Sorry.
So yeah.
Takes me a second sometimes. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's the pointing. Okay, perfect.
Right.
Perfect. Let's see, what else do we have? Okay, so this is a good one. How do you train your mind for the strategy and decision making, or is it really all come down to muscle memory?
When you're smaller, it's mostly muscle memory. When you start getting to a more international level, you kind of have to you kind of have to use strategy a little bit more. And that just involves, studying your opponents, seeing what they like to do. Usually when you get to that kind of level, you've fought almost every style. So if you're just able to say, okay, this is what he likes to do, this is the style he likes to play, he's a lefty or righty, does he come out straight attacking? Is he a little more defensive? These kind of tactics play into it. And from there, you're able to, create a game plan in a way. But the thing I always like to tell people is you can't rely just on the game plan. You have to be able to adapt to the situation, because they're also studying you. So they may say, well, he likes to do this, and then when you come out, he's playing a completely different game. So yes, you need a game plan, but do not follow it to a T, kind of.
Gotcha. Yeah, be prepared, but adapt, right?
Right.
Okay, so then, this is interesting. What's your favorite way to win a match? A pin, amazing throw, tackle, headlock, choke?
Mine is throwing somebody. When you catch them clean, like I said, they feel like a feather. They just go over. It's like they slipped on a banana peel and they just go boom, and the crowd usually goes, "Oh!" That for me personally is the best way to win. Um, a lot of people like pinning because, like I told you earlier, in wrestling you hold them for 3 seconds. In judo you have to hold them for 20. So just being able to hold someone for 20 seconds, that also feels really good. But personally for me, I love when I catch somebody with a throw and it's just a clean throw.
Yeah. So are there any other unique etiquette traditions to start or end a match?
Yeah, so judo is Japanese. It's a Japanese martial art. So if you can imagine, respect is um, a large influence on it. So when you start a match, you always bow to your opponent. You always bow when you enter the mat. The mat is considered kind of like this, sacred battleground, kind of going back to the samurai days. And then you bow to your opponent. Um, that's kind of like the one mentality difference between judo and say wrestling that I personally have noticed is, in wrestling, you're just trying to kill each other on and off the mat. Whereas in judo, as soon as you bow, you try to kill each other. But once the mat's over and you bow again, you could be friends, right? So it's kind of this, it's a little weird, but yeah, it's a very respectful sport. Great people, all very friendly. It's rare to find someone who's kind of rude in judo, and that just comes down to that cultural roots of the sport. Um, and then there's other traditions that you do. You respect higher ranking, right? We go off a belt system, so you respect a higher ranking, some stuff like that. But yeah.
Fantastic. So, do you have a pre-match routine that you follow within the last couple of minutes before your match starts?
um Kind of. So it's actually probably one of the most stressful times because you have to wait in the chute, and it usually takes around 10 to 15 minutes for you to actually get out there from when they call your name to when you get out there. So personally for me, the number one thing is just remaining calm. My adrenaline likes to kick up, right? Especially when they call your name, you're like, oh, I'm up, but really you have a little bit to go, and it is super stressful because you just want to get out there, right? And you're just
Mhm.
waiting and waiting and waiting. So that's probably the first thing. The other thing is I kind of sip my water a lot. I try to stay hydrated. A lot of places we go, super hot. Um, but besides that, not really too much. I'll go over a game plan again with my coach if I have to, but that's pretty much it. Nothing too special.
Okay. Um, so going back to the different belts, what is your current belt and how long did it take to achieve it? So how long would it take to achieve each level?
So I'm a black belt. I'm a first degree. I've never really pushed for promotion since I started competing.
Well, what's
Um,
promotion? Let's stop there.
Sorry.
What's promotion?
So to get promoted, you have to do what's called kata. It's forms. Um, it's almost like a dance. I like to think of it as a dance. I'm a competitor, so I call it a dance, right? It's very elegant. It's kind of peaceful in a way. But you have to perform those, and that just kind of shows your understanding of momentum control and stuff like that. Um, so I personally have never really pushed for that because you kind of have to train for that separately, and that's just not a priority. But I am a first degree black belt, and it took me, I like to say 11 years. Usually takes people a little bit longer to get promoted in judo
Okay.
than in karate and taekwondo. Uh, I remember when I was 9 and my cousins were 9, they were already black belts in taekwondo, and I was like an orange belt, which is like the third highest rank in judo. And I was like, that's not fair. But um, that just means that when you see a black belt in judo, typically, not always, there's exceptions, but typically they know what they're talking about. So there's that. Yeah.
And so then how many belts are there in judo then?
Um, in the United States, it usually goes white, yellow, orange, green, blue, purple, brown, black. Traditionally, there was only white and black. Either judo or you don't, right? um, but that's kind of the color belt system is what we go off of in the United States. Um, Typically, kids will get up to brown belt by 14, 15, and they'll typically get their black belt when they turn 16, 17, 18 before they go to college, kind of thing. That's if you start young. But and then adults typically will skip a couple ranks. Most of the colored belt thing is for kids, just to show they're progressing, keep them um, engaged. But adults really don't care that much, so they'll typically skip a couple ranks. Yeah.
Gotcha. I think that might be it. Look at that, we're at 6:45 too. Great job, Robert. So I wanted to thank everyone for coming. And also a big thank you again to Ottobock, Fox Sports, the Hanger Clinic, Gold Meets Golden, and the Hartford. Coming up next is our final Angel 5K training boost before the big race on August 7th. It's not too late to sign up for either the in-person or virtual race. Please join us and stay updated with everything we have going on via email and social media. And once again, thank you so much, Robert, and Robert's brother. we gotta include him. It was really enjoyable for me. Hopefully everyone enjoyed it as well. And have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you again, Robert. Best of luck in Tokyo. I'm going to be trying to watch
Thank
as
you.
much as I can.
Thank you.
So we'll be rooting for you. Thank
Yes,
you,
we
everybody.
will.
Bye, guys.